Good evening, everyone. This is Emily Ponticello and Alyssa Grillo reporting in Media, Pennsylvania on the first of many FBI scandals. On March 8, 1971, a group of 8 men and women who called themselves the Citizens Commission to Investigate the FBI broke into a small FBI office located on the second floor of an apartment building in Media, Pennsylvania. They stole hundreds of files, leaving absolutely nothing in the office. In the weeks after the burglary, these files were anonymously released to various publishers in an attempt to reveal to the public what the commission had found. Though they did not get far, publisher, journalist, and author Betty Medsger investigated further and wrote a book called The Burglary, the discoverer of J. Edgar Hoover's secret FBI. We're here today with Miss Medsger. Thank you so much for being here. What can you tell us about the case?
Thank you for having me. I'll start by telling you that this case was extremely surprising and changed history.
So, what surprised you most in your research?
There were many things, actually. The first batch of anonymous files came in and I thought they were a joke. I brought them in to be examined by the FBI, and they were confirmed to be authentic, so I was given specific instructions not to publish them. This raised my curiosity in the case, so I examined closer, and what I found was a set of instructions to agents to investigate and intimidate groups to enhance the paranoia in the public. That was really striking to find.
What types of groups are we talking about here?
Well, the documents revealed that the FBI had been spying on and posing as members of different groups such as feminists, labor unions, students at universities, specifically non-white students, civil rights activists, as well as anti-war groups protesting the Vietnam War. One of the most horrible findings in this case was a document anonymously addressed to Martin Luther King Jr. advising him to kill himself in order to avoid public humiliation over his personal life.
That is really shocking. Thank you, Betty. Let's take a look at this recreation to see how these men and women did it.
Everyone was watching the battle. After months of meticulous planning, getting inside looks at the apartment layout, and studying the residents' schedules, the Citizens Commission to investigate the FBI was ready. The newly trained locksmith went in first, only to discover that the main office door had a lock he had never picked before. Luckily, another member had reported a second door blocked by a file cabinet that had a much simpler lock. When the TV got loud, he pushed the cabinet inch by inch until he and the rest of the members could fit through. Once they were in, they took everything. They packed the files into their briefcases, walked out the front door, and drove away in the getaway vehicles. They split up and sorted the files and agreed to never talk to each other again.
It wasn't until 43 years later that 5 of the 8 burglars revealed themselves. Bill Davidson, John and Bonnie Raines, Keith Forsyth, Bob Williamson, and 3 other members who wished to remain anonymous were never caught. They remained in secrecy throughout the various trials, suspicions, and other burglaries to follow. In the following years, police arrested the Camden 28 for a similar break-in, and police were convinced that the media burglars were all included in this group. All 28 of the convicted were released.
After this period of burglaries, many things changed for the FBI. Former FBI Deputy Director William Mark Felt Sr., also known as Deep Throat, was among the many that have since been involved with the exploitation of the FBI. Today we're here with Mr. Felt to hear more about the aftermath of the burglary. Mr. Felt, what can you tell us about what happened after this historic break-in?
Well, due to the investigations conducted by the Church Committee in 1976, multiple reforms were enacted as an attempt to control the FBI's power. However, in recent years, under the War on Terror, the FBI has essentially been using similar tactics as those used in COINTELPRO, in which civil liberties were deeply violated. For example, their tactic of getting innocent Muslims entrapped in false terrorist schemes created by FBI informants. In other words, although there were official attempts at restraining the FBI's power, the FBI was truly never actually restrained, as they were able to work around these restraints to continue violating civil liberties.
And what else happened in the years following? Can you briefly explain the events of Watergate and the Pentagon Papers?
Break-in opened the eyes of the citizens and paved the way for further investigation of the FBI. It also sent the groundwork for public mistrust in government agencies, which was then deepened by both the Watergate and Pentagon Papers scandals. The Pentagon Papers revealed American atrocities and mistakes in the Vietnam War, as well as how the people were misled and manipulated with incorrect information. The Watergate scandal was an event that revealed intergovernment workings of cover-ups and stopping the media leaks of confidential government information. It also showed connections between a majority of the United States government agencies and a wide array of cover-ups and illegal phone taps. Both events just further proved that the government is not to be trusted.
How did events like the media FBI break-in and the Pentagon Papers influence today's status of the FBI?
Actually, there's some relatively astonishing information when it comes to the current status of the FBI. After many of the files were released to the public, the FBI cracked down on their security, and now in today's era, this comes off as threatening in many scenarios. Especially after Donald Trump was indicted, the FBI is responsible for the most invasive means of investigating, whether that be peering through people's homes or even listening in on cell phone conversations. This is no accident, especially since they carried out acts like this prior to the media break-in to spy on anti-war protesters, black nationalists, and civil rights groups. Now it's just more extreme, and the government and FBI will probably do nothing to make their fellow Americans think that everything is fine and dandy to cover up the fact that they have some huge secrets under their belt.
Thank you, William. The media break-in had a huge impact on the public and their views on the FBI. It created paranoia from a once praised organization. The Citizens Commission revealed the anti-democratic nature and the lack of balance within the FBI prior to 1971. A common theme that came about after this case was if they're watching us, who's watching them? And the answer to that is no one. The people being investigated were ordinary citizens, and they were being left in the dark. Even now, nearly 50 years after the break-in, the public is still paranoid. Many people do not trust the FBI or the government at all, and take precautions to ensure they do not fall victim to unwanted spying or involvement in special cases. We thank the Citizens Commission to investigate the FBI for committing this burglary, revealing the necessary and making public aware of what is happening in today's world. Thank you for joining us today.